Alright, so this is going to be my first coaching video, and I'm going to be helping out guyforgot24 from Reddit, and we're going to go through some things that I think would help improve his win rate. So the first thing we're going to look at is lineup construction. So this is our boy right here. He's got a good lineup for sure. I do have a few issues with how he has this lineup ordered. So he has Mike Trout, who is a righty but is also a righty killer leading off. There's nothing wrong with that, but he goes righty killer, lefty killer, righty killer. Stan is technically a lefty killer, but he's a left-handed bat, so I still count him as a lefty, as a right-handed killer. And then we go lefty, better lefty hitter, and then basically righty. So the changes I would make, I would order this lineup. I would go Eric Davis in the leadoff spot because of the speed, and then I would go Trout. Even though they're both righties, Eric Davis is going to hit lefties better, and Trout's going to hit righties better. So that makes more sense to me. And then Jones can stay in the three spot as a switch hitter. And so we're going righty killer, lefty killer, or lefty killer, righty killer, lefty killer. I like Walker in the four spot as a righty killer. And then I also just really dislike batting two lefties next to each other because batting lefty-lefty is really difficult, at least for me. So I would go Correa, although these last three don't really matter too much. I would probably go Correa and then Stan and then Cap, and then I want Biggio in the 8 spot just because he's a leadoff type hitter with his 90 speed and good contact. So that's all I'm going to say about that. Let's move on to the beginning of this game. So we're playing in Laughing Mountain. I like this stadium. Just to start us off here, I know a lot of people like to pitch from, I think this is the outfield pitching view. I personally pitch from strike zone, and I feel like it helps me understand what the pitches I'm throwing are going to look like to a batter a little bit more. And I also feel like it's just a little bit easier to locate. But this is a personal preference on the camera angle, so I'm not going to say too much else about that. And let's go. This whole first inning, you did give up a home run, I think, but honestly, there was nothing I noticed that was too crazy. But I do want to go to this at-bat, your first at-bat. So here we have Mike Trout leading off, and we're facing Oral Hershiser. And he throws you a first pitch cutter, and I just don't like swinging first pitch here. I mean, like I said, a lot of the best players are very aggressive, and they will swing first pitch, but this is first pitch of the game against Oral, who's a really good pitcher. So I would probably at least take the first pitch, if not the first two pitches. That's usually my strategy, just to kind of get warmed up, see it. I mean, because if he's going to throw you balls for the first, obviously he threw you a strike here, but you want to make sure that you're getting ahead in the count early in the game. That's the most important thing, even if you're not getting hits. You do put a really good swing on this next ball. It's really weird that this guy doubled up on cutter here. I don't really understand, but good swing. The PCI placement was a little iffy, but that's all star for you. And then that's all I have to say about that. I don't like swinging first pitch. I like taking a couple pitches against a guy like Oral has a lot of stamina, and he's going to go late in the game. So, all right, let's go to 7:20. Okay, so this at-bat, this is what I wanted to talk about. So the whole inning before this, you are starting your PCI middle in, and then if we go here to this at-bat with Walker, you get into a 2-strike count, and it seems like you're afraid of a breaking ball, and so you're sitting in the lower part of the zone, or not afraid, but you're expecting off speed. There's no problem with necessarily hunting a pitch here, even in a 2-strike count. But if you're going to, I think you need to keep your PCI in the same placement throughout the entire game just for consistency. I've tried doing this, like moving my PCI around, expecting pitches, and changing it throughout the game, and I've never had success. And I know this is something that Sebrev preaches also, is PCI just needs to stay consistent throughout the whole game. Because what ends up happening here is he throws a high sinker, and then you strike out, which, not saying you would have hit that pitch if you're sitting middle in, and you can still be looking for that off speed, but that's a long way to go from down here to up here, and you're in a 2-strike count. You need to protect. So, all right, so let's go to 11-6. So yeah, this is pitching pretty well up to this point. Wait, where am I going? Here we go. I wanted to look at this at bat. Yes, this at bat with Trout is what I wanted to look at. So I know you're starting him off here with an off-speed pitch, but the rest of this at bat and a lot of the first 2 innings, you're pitching very traditionally, where you may throw an off-speed to get ahead in the count, but you're generally going fast, slow. And there's nothing wrong with doing that, but when you're doing it consistently throughout multiple innings, it is pretty easy for people to pick up on. You do change the eye level as well with the cutter there. I also personally, curveballs, I know that worked out really well for you there. I don't like curveballs in this game because they tend to hang a lot, and Oral does have a good curveball, but even the best get crushed a lot. And I noticed throughout this game you really like to throw that curveball, and it works out generally pretty well for you, but I just don't think curveballs are good 2-strike pitches necessarily in this game. All right, so let's go to this at-bat from Biggio, because this at-bat kind of highlights an issue that you seem to have throughout this entire game, and it's hitting high fastballs, or in this case sinkers. Even on all-star difficulty, if you're not sitting on the fastball, it'll get by you. So I always recommend that you sit fast and react slow. So I would always be sitting sinker here, because you can run into a slow pitch if you're sitting fastball, but you're never going to just run into a fastball, if that makes sense. Yeah. So you're late on every single sinker in this at-bat, which is why I chose it. And if you're sitting sinker there, that pitch is probably crushed. But like I said, this is just an issue I see a lot of people struggle with, is just hitting the fast stuff. And that's another example of you moved your PCI down like you're expecting slow stuff, and he brings that high inside heat because he knows that you're sitting off speed and not on the fastball. So that's another point to keeping the PCI placement consistent. But also, I think maybe you should even try sitting high with your PCI if you think that'll help you catch up to the fastball. But I think 100% you need to be sitting sinker and reacting to everything else, especially against a guy like Oral, who throws a really nasty sinker and throws it up to 95 miles an hour. All right, so let's go to 14-25. Yeah, this at bat, all I wanted to say about this is I think you give up a home run with Mickey Mantle here. You're doing a good job of changing up the pitches at this point. There's nothing wrong with that. This is the pitch that I have a problem with, and this is the pitch that leads to you giving up a home run, is you're trying to backdoor a slider in a 1-2 count. First of all, I just don't think Oral's slider is very effective. It's his worst pitch. It's his 5th pitch. I think it's the pitch he has the least control over. Personally, I will never throw Oral's slider, but There's nothing wrong with throwing in a slider every once in a while. I just think there's no reason to be throwing him a backdoor slider in a 1-2 count. If I'm throwing off speed here, I'm busting him inside and looking for a strikeout. Yeah, that's all I have to say about this. It hangs. He hits it. That's what happens. Also, you did a pretty good job of mixing up pitches, and that's a thing that I see a lot of people do is they're really good at mixing up pitches, but it's actually really effective in this game to work on tunneling pitches and not necessarily just mixing up pitches, but doubling up and tripling up on pitches that you know your opponent can't hit. So there's a few more examples later in this game that we'll look at related to that, so I'm not worried about it. So let's go to 1640. So your pitcher's up. It's the bottom of the third. You're down 2. There's nobody on base, and you're leading off the inning. In this situation, I am not swinging the bat until 2 strikes. There is just no reason, especially when you're facing Oral Hershiser, who has a lot of stamina, to make this at-bat last any shorter than 3 pitches. I think that this at-bat ends up being a 3-pitch strikeout, but in this case, I'm always going to take until 2 strikes just on the off chance that he's going to throw me any balls. I'm trying to work the count with the pitcher, so I'm going to get to 0-2 or 1-2 or 2-2, whatever, 2 strikes, and then I'm going to be contact swinging and just trying not to strike out here, because strikeouts give your opponent's pitcher a lot of confidence. And then I think it's later in this Trout at bat. Yeah, so it looks like you're hunting a specific pitch early in the count, which I actually highly recommend early in the count, is hunting a specific pitch. But again, just you were sitting low with that PCI, and I just think you need to be keeping your PCI placement consistent. So, all right. So we're going to skip ahead quite a ways, actually, to this situation, which I think was very interesting. So, okay. So you pull Oral here and put in Reggie Jackson. Nothing wrong with that. Oral has given up 4 runs through 6 innings, actually. He's pitched a pretty good game. Nothing wrong with pulling him here. And then you get on base with Reggie Jackson. And then you go to Jackie off the bench as a pinch runner. Now, I like pinch running. I just don't like pinch running in this specific situation. I think it's too early in the game, and this isn't a high enough leverage spot to pinch run, because now you've burned 2 bench bats. You've burned 2 bench bats now. It's the 6th inning. You're only down 3. And, I mean, sure, if you hit one in the gap, you're guaranteeing a run, basically. But at the same time, there's nobody out, and you have a good chance of scoring him anyways with a base hit. So, and then, as we can see, this at-bat actually ends with a double play, so the pinch runner didn't pay off anyways. I think that if you can pinch run. Pinch running is very important in late innings when you either really can't hit into a double play or you have a guy on base with like less than 50 speed. And that's the most important thing in my opinion. So enough said about that. Let's go to 32 and talk about some pitching stuff. 32. Okay, so this at bat. Okay, so you throw a first pitch change up here and give up a bomb. Good hit by him. Also a little bit of a magnet. Threw it right down the middle. It happens. But what I wanted to talk about is actually the at bat before this. So let's go back in time a little bit. So this at bat versus Mike Trout, you show him the fastball this entire at bat, and he is late on every single fastball you throw him here. He's late, but he's check swinging, but he's still late there. Fastball, he's very late, not even touching it, and then you get him here. And so you just shown him 4 straight fastballs, and he didn't make contact with like a single one. So I think that there's probably, you know that his bat is slow. You know he's sitting off speed. There's probably no reason to be throwing him a first pitch changeup here, and definitely not a reason to be throwing him an inside first pitch changeup here, because that's the pitch he's sitting on based on that previous at bat. I would probably go fastball away in this situation just to see where his bat's at, and then if he's early, we adjust off of that. But chances are he's going to be late. And then this leads into the next at bat actually. So give up the home run on the off speed. So you're thinking, so I don't like this pitch here. I just don't like Orel's slider, but it ends up in a good spot. And then high and inside fastball, nothing wrong with that. As you can see, he's late on the outside fastball, so you're still thinking his bat's slow. And then you go for that pitch again, and he takes it, and then you throw it a third time, and he hits it. So let's talk about this. I don't mind the triple up on fastball here, but it's a 1-2 count. You can afford a waste pitch here. So there's no reason that you need to be lining this pitch up right here. This pitch should be at least like at the catcher's mask, in my opinion, because you can afford to get into a 2-2 count. You can't afford to throw a pitch right down the middle, which you did accidentally. I get it, but and I don't mind the fastball choice here. I just think that this is definitely a waste pitch count. So that's all I'm going to say about that one. And then go to 33, the next at bat. This one, so you've just given up a home run on a high and inside fastball. And once again, I don't hate throwing a fastball here. I actually like throwing the pitch that you give up a home run on the last pitch, because people aren't expecting it. But this fastball definitely needs to be outside after he is early on the early side of good on this fastball down the middle. I think this fastball needs to be outside, because if he's early on it, he's not going to be able to pull it for a home run, and chances are he's going to be late on it. It ends up working out. I think you get a fly out, but that's a good timing swing fly out. So, all right. So let's hop into some batting stuff again. This at bat with Chipper. So let's just assess the game situation a little bit. Down 5 runs. Orel's pitching a gem. He only has 63 pitches through 6. And swinging first pitch, there's nothing wrong with swinging first pitch again. I think you could be a little more patient since Orel isn't throwing very many pitches, but I think if you're going to be swinging here, you need to be looking for one specific pitch, and it looks like you're looking for this high pitch, but you need to be looking for that pitch, and if it's not that pitch, you need to be taking this, because we need to see a lot of balls from Orel if we're going to get him out of the game, and you can't be giving him a free strike on this pitch in an 0-1 count. I actually just think that this is a good strategy for the entire game, is to, early in the count, you're looking for one pitch, and you're not swinging unless it's that pitch. And see, there you actually got the pitch that you were looking for, but he kind of dotted that. It was a really good cutter. So, and then going into this next at-bat, it's basically the same thing I was just talking about. You have Larry Walker here in an 0-2 count. And Larry Walker's in an 0-2 count here because you swung first pitch again. I just think you need to be trying to get Orel out of the game at this point and not trying to crush Orel. because Oral's confidence is really high at this point because he's only given up 1 run through 6 innings. So it seems like you're early on the off speed. You're probably sitting fastball here. You need to be only swinging at a fastball, and only if it's down the middle. Like, yeah, because this next swing is like definitely a pitch you have to swing at, but it's only a pitch you have to swing at if you're in an 0-2 count. So that's kind of my breakdown of that at bat. Is you wouldn't have had to swing at that pitch and hit a lazy fly ball if you had taken those off-speed pitches. All right, so let's go to 36, 23. Okay, so, all right. So it's still 6-1. It's bottom of the 8th. I understand why you're going to the bullpen here, because if you give up any more runs, your chances of winning or coming back are extremely low. So I have no problem with you going to the bullpen here. The problem I have is with who you put in. So you put in Rob Dibble in the top of the 8th with 2 outs in a 5-run ball game. This is not really a high leverage situation. So Rob Dibble is the best right-handed reliever in the game, and he should be saved for save situations / high leverage situations. I really think that you should probably throw a Rodney or a Hankey or a Keith Folk here to get you this last out and get out of the inning. I think that this is a waste of Rob Dibble, because then say you make the comeback in the next inning and now it's a 6-6 game, but it's the top of the 9th. Now you don't have Rob Dibble necessarily to pitch the next inning, or he doesn't have full energy. So that's all I wanted to say about that. 41-17. This is another spot. You just need to be keeping your PCI consistent throughout the game. There's nothing wrong with changing and messing with your PCI, but if you do this, you can't be doing this in the middle of a game, especially in the bottom of the 8th. I know that you're frustrated at this point because you've only scored 1 run and you want to change something up, but sticking with one PCI and practicing with it in Challenge of the Week or BP is really important, just to get muscle memory, to get reps in. I just don't like this move. I think that it's just not giving you any kind of advantage, and it's putting you at a disadvantage. And then last thing I wanted to say, and it's about a pitching change again. Come on now. Well, as it's loading, I'll talk about it. So you have 2 outs in the 9th inning, and you're down 7, and you go to Fernando Rodney. I understand that Raleigh has thrown 20 pitches at this point, but this is, if the Rob Dibble, if the spot where you bought Rob Dibble in was low leverage, this is like even lower leverage. I'm not saying that this game isn't winnable, because it is. There's no such thing as a game that is 100% a loss, but it's 7 runs, and I just think that there's no reason to waste Rodney's stamina here. Even though it's only going to be a little bit of stamina, there's probably not going to be a big difference if you keep Raleigh in here. And even if he gives up a 2-run shot, the chances are you're not going to come back from this. So I know that this doesn't make a huge difference in the long run, but just, I mean, for someone like Rodney, like just throwing 3 pitches in a game is the difference between him having full energy and him having like 2/3 energy, which can make a big difference next game. So anyways, I know you were telling me that you had a tough time pitching this game and a tough time hitting. And honestly, your pitching wasn't that bad. I just think that there was some major issues with deciding what pitch to throw in a couple high leverage situations. And with hitting, I really think that things will turn around a lot for you if you start to sit hard and react slow, and maybe even try moving that PCI into the upper half of the zone, and try out and see if that helps at all. Along with another consistent thing is the PCI issue. You really should be keeping your PCI as consistent as possible throughout the game, just for consistency's sake. It's just like in real baseball, you wouldn't switch your batting stance in the middle of an at-bat or in the middle of a game, right? So I think if you work on a couple of these things, you'll find a lot more success. And thank you guys for watching. If you have any tips for me on doing this kind of thing in the future, this is my first time, obviously, so I'm totally open to any criticism. But hopefully you enjoyed. Hopefully you got something out of this. And I'll be making some more of these in the future. So thanks for watching.